All right, well, it's dubbed the Flying Fortress. The B-17 is one of the most storied aircraft of World War II.
Yeah, the B-17 and its crew flew dangerous missions into enemy territory to bomb enemy targets.
70 years later, there are fewer than a dozen B-17s that are still able to fly. Earlier today, KREM 2 photographer Jeff Bollinger and I got to go up in one of them. She first rolled off the assembly line in Burbank, California back in 1944. 74 years later, the Madras Maiden is looking good and flying high.
Our foundation is out here to provide education for the younger generations and to provide family members with a way to reattach to their relatives that might be gone.
John Eade says this particular bomber never saw combat but spent its military career being used for research and development before it was eventually purchased by the Liberty Foundation. It travels to different communities, showing off one of the fewer than a dozen B-17s still flying today to World War II veterans like Joe DeLay. Here we go. One of the first things you noticed is all the guns, hence the nickname the Flying Fortress. While the aircraft is a bomber, its crew manned machine guns all over the aircraft, including the nose, the tail, and even the underside. For as much success as this aircraft saw during World War II, more than 4,700 B-17s were lost in combat. And in terms of creature comforts, there aren't many. The cabin's not pressurized, it's unbearably loud, and it can get extremely cold. But for our flight today, conditions were perfect. The experience, unforgettable. So we just landed after about a 15-minute flight or so here at Felts Field, and it was awesome to get up in this aircraft and to be able to walk around and see all the different positions the crew would have manned during the flight. It's hard to imagine, being 18, 20 years old, 70 years ago in the skies above Europe, being shot at and doing what they did back then. It's just incredible.
I think that was very nice. A very nice gesture.
Joe DeLay served in the 101st Airborne during World War II. During the war, he says, he typically flew in and jumped out of C-46s and C-47s, but he did fly in the B-17 once before. 70 years later, he was happy to hitch another ride aboard the Flying Fortress.
It was wonderful. I enjoyed it.
So, in case you're wondering, the Madras Maiden will be available to see in person and even to fly if you would like to this weekend at Felts Field. Flights will take place both on Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. until 2. The flights are about 45 minutes. The email address is www.libertyfoundation.org. You can also call them at numbers on your screen right there, 918-340-0243. The money you pay for the flight helps the foundation offset the cost of fuel and maintenance on that aircraft. It's about $100,000 a year to maintain that aircraft.
Wow.
Every year, so there's a lot of money that goes into it.
Yeah, what an experience.
Yeah.
What about you? I didn't see you wearing earplugs.
I took them out right when we landed, but we had them in the whole time because it is loud.
You had to.
I mean, it's wild being in there because it's kind of cramped, first off, and it's literally just the skin of the aircraft that's all that's between you and the outside.
Yeah.
So it's pretty wild thinking about what they endured back in the day.
Yeah.
And then you brought it up, thinking that there were 18 and 19-year-olds that spent the late teenage years or early 20s flying over Europe. They weren't backpacking and having a good time. They were winning a war. That's just amazing.
And hats off to them.
Yeah.
Sure. There were 10 crew members aboard that plane. Required 10 of them. So it's a really cool deal to get to see it. And if you can't afford to fly in it or don't want to fly in it, at least go out to Felts Field and check it out.
Yeah.
A piece of history.
All right, Mark, thank you very much.